And so there was one. What I'm referring to is Donald Trump. Now, before I begin this week's show, I want to say something. Ted Cruz, you did it to yourself. Bottom line. Now, when I did the cockroach video, I plainly stated you would not answer questions directly at all. I may have no interest in voting for you, but other people saw straight through that and they basically shut you down. That is what happened to you. Now, with that being said, I got a bone to pick with John Kasich. You were the last man standing against the mass media that was supporting Trump. And what you go out and do? You suspended yours. You actually had a way to go if everything would have fallen into place, but you gave up. My question to you is, why? You could have pulled a Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao and would have won by decision at the convention. But no, you threw in the towel. Bad Kasich. With all of this venting at the beginning of the show, I guess I had to take a look at the mainstream media's mass choice of Trump. Now, for you longtime viewers of my show, you know my stance, and it's not a pretty one. He will get blown out by 200 plus electoral votes this fall. No doubt about that. And I'm not because of Democratic voters show up. It'll be because moderate conservatives, the real voting bloc for Team Red, will stay home. That is what the media will not tell you because it does not fit the narrative right now. And that's sad. Now, he was in Charleston, West Virginia this week. And before I make my comments, here's what he said about being the only one left in the race.
I actually wish the primaries were not over. It's no fun this way. I want the primaries to keep going, but everybody's out. I'm the only one left. That's okay, right? Right?
Now, Mr. Trump, you know for a fact, and you acknowledge this on Meet the Press, that you are getting all this free advertising for your campaign from the mass media. So don't even go there because you're playing everyone for suckers, regardless of political stance, because I'm firmly in the camp now that you are a Democratic plant. And when people realize that, this country will have a huge issue on their hands due to a sham presidency. Now, while in Charleston, he did actually talk about something. Well, yeah, he did. He was talking coal down there. Now, I have a lot of friends that their families from that part of the country, so this is a great interest for me. Now, in this short clip, he spoke about it while taking a swipe at Hillary Clinton.
Oh, coal country, what they've done. And how about Hillary Clinton? I was watching her 3 or 4 weeks ago. See, I'm going to put the miners back to work. And she said, I'm going to put the miners and the mines out of business. And then she comes over and she tried to explain her statement. That's a tough one to explain, wouldn't you say? I watched, and I just think you're amazing people. And you watch what happens. If I win, we're going to bring those miners back. You're going to be so proud of your president. You're going to be so proud of your country. You watch.
Now, for the people who may not know, coal is a life. Coal is a way of life there, and they want to protect it and what they have left. Yeah, it's a dirty and dangerous job, but it's what the state have, and they don't want to lose it at all. And speaking of coal, Bernie Sanders was also in Charleston this week, and he spoke about what he's going to do about this.
I understand that as we transform the energy system of this country and of the world, that there are workers in the fossil fuel industry who will be hurt. Our job is to make certain that we protect those workers. We do not leave them behind. And that is why I have introduced legislation which puts $41 billion into helping those workers and those communities get their feet back on the ground.
Mr. Sanders, I got a news flash for you. In the case of West Virginia, or any place that is cold country for that matter, you need more programs and money to change an entire country. You need more than that. Now, can it be done? Of course it can. Never said it could be. But you're talking at least 30 years of work. But that point, would anyone live there at that point? Excuse me. Now, before anyone says that is nowhere being true, I got some historical evidence to back up that statement. Now, for the record, I live here in Akron, Ohio, which means, as the local inside joke here for years was, the capital of West Virginia. What do I mean by that? Now, you go back 100 years ago, but it was the same situation that is now in the state. Work in the mines, live off the land, or move. Those were your options, and people came to Akron because there was tire jobs and rubber companies took full advantage of that situation. The old-timers here always told me that when people left for Akron, it took 30 years to get even close where they were at that point. I am saying that history is doomed to repeat itself. And for that to happen, and that will happen again, mark the tape on that. Now, with all this talk, I have not really spoke about Hillary Clinton. Where was she at this week? She was out in Los Angeles, and she went right after Trump in this clip.
Our next president has to meet 3 tests. Can you actually help families get ahead and stay ahead? Can you keep us safe? And can you bring our country together? Well, Donald Trump fails all 3 of those tests. With all the challenges we face in America and in the world, we can't have a loose cannon in the Oval Office. That is a risk we cannot afford.
Now, I want to make one thing clear. She is pandering hard, and she is all over the place on issues. Now, I can take an entire hour and talk about that. However, I have to ask you, the voter, is she the only one you really wanted the last 3 years? Now, in my trolling a Hillary Clinton video, here's exactly what I said. Now, I know that deserves an explanation, and I'm going to give it right now. I don't know if you noticed it, but I have. I mean, you can go on Facebook, any forums, any websites. I don't care where you go. There are people campaigning on Clinton's behalf. And the political article talks about this in briefing, and not in briefing, talks about this in passing, excuse me. And that should be the topic of that article, and that's why I'm talking about it. People are campaigning on her behalf. So basically, if you're doing that, saying that she should be the nominee, you are nothing more than an unpaid troll. And the other reason why I bring this up is this. If she becomes a nominee, 2 things. Number 1, she pulled off what Ron Paul's people couldn't do. And I'll applaud her for that, even though it's totally wrong. And the other reason with this is, if she pulls this off, progressives, and I'm talking about the diehard progressives, you are 100% hypocrites. Because you are the same people who raised holy hell about when the same thing happened to Mitt Romney during that last presidential election cycle. So keep that in mind. All this election cycle, this meme popped up, and it's so true. Straight out of options. Folks, this country dropped the ball big time this election, and we are all at fault. It should never got to this point because you let the media control the narrative, and this is the end result. The world is watching, but just not laughing at us, at least not yet. But I promise you, that is coming.